Keanu Reeves had never been one for attention, but today, walking through the sleek modern doors of his brand-new restaurant, Revival, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with nervous anticipation. This was his dream come true, no longer just a place to dine, but a community, a sanctuary where people could come together, enjoy great food and escape the chaos of the outside world. He'd spent months planning every detail, from the menu to the decor, ensuring everything would be perfect. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about being the center of attention. It was about creating something real, something that connected people from all walks of life. The restaurant's opening day had finally arrived. Keanu, dressed casually but with that signature humble elegance, stepped inside. The air was filled with the scent of freshly cooked meals, the sounds of lively chatter, and the clink of glasses. Everything seemed as it should be, but there was a certain unease that gnawed at him. As he moved through the bustling dining area, his eyes scanned the room. The staff seemed to be working hard, but there was something off about the energy. He wasn't sure what it was. Maybe it was just the nerves of opening day, but the tension was palpable. There were whispers among the staff, a brief glance exchanged here and there, and it was unsettling. Then it happened. Keanu's gaze landed on a young woman, one of his servers, who was interacting with a customer at one of the tables. The customer, a black man, had politely asked for a different dish, but the server's tone was dismissive. She smiled, but it wasn't genuine. It felt condescending. The way she spoke to him, her words laced with irritation, sent a chill down Keanu's spine. It was subtle but unmistakable. Keanu's feet froze in place. He watched, heart pounding, as the customer tried to remain polite, but the discomfort was clear on his face. "Excuse me, I asked for this dish, not that one," the customer said. Again, his voice calm but firm. "I'll check on it in a minute," the server replied, brushing him off with a flick of her hand. Keanu's stomach twisted. This was his restaurant, his dream, and what he was seeing didn't belong here. His eyes locked onto the scene, unable to look away. He'd always prided himself on making people feel seen and heard. This wasn't that. The moment the server turned away to attend to another table, Keanu walked swiftly to the counter, his mind racing. He hadn't heard the rest of the conversation, but that one exchange was enough. He knew something was wrong. He knew he couldn't let this go, not here, not now. But the bigger question lingered. How had this happened? How had something that was supposed to unite people been tainted by such behavior? Who else was involved? In this? Could this just be a one-time mistake? He had to act, but how? And more importantly, who could he trust? The room buzzed with conversation, but all Keanu could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat in his ears. This was supposed to be a place where everyone was treated with respect. It was supposed to be a refuge for all, not just for some. Keanu stood there for a moment, his thoughts spinning. He couldn't let this slide, not on his watch. The bell above the door jingled as a few more customers entered, and Keanu snapped out of his daze. He had to get to the bottom of this, and fast. But before he could take another step, he caught sight of something that made his heart drop further. Another exchange. A second instance of rude treatment. This time, it was a Latina family that had just been seated. The server's words were harsh, the way she addressed them with a tone that reeked of impatience. Keanu's stomach twisted. It wasn't just a one-off incident. There was a pattern. His mind raced. How had it come to this? Keanu took a deep breath and turned toward the back office, his mind made up. He needed answers, and he needed them now. This nightmare was only beginning. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the shocking twists and revelations coming up. Would you have stood up to this behavior, or turned a blind eye? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Keanu Reeves was not just a famous actor. He was a man of mystery, humility, and deep personal values. Born in Lebanon, raised in Toronto, Keanu had become a global icon known for his roles in The Matrix, John Wick, and countless other films. However, what really set him apart from other Hollywood stars was his refusal to buy into the typical celebrity lifestyle. Instead, he remained grounded, often seen on the streets of Los Angeles riding the subway or helping strangers without expecting anything in return. Keanu's down-to-earth nature was what had made him beloved by millions, but it was also why this new venture, his restaurant, felt so different. While other actors might have used their fame to open high-end, expensive eateries or to profit from their brand, Keanu wanted something more meaningful. He wanted to create a place that was about community, not just about serving food. The idea for Revival had come to him during one of his many travels. He had always been a lover of food, especially the diverse and rich flavors he encountered during his visits to different parts of the world. But it wasn't just the food that intrigued him, it was the way food brought people together. In each city, in every restaurant, he saw people from all walks of life gathering at tables, sharing stories and connecting. It wasn't just a meal, it was an experience. So Keanu decided to take a leap. He would open a restaurant in Los Angeles, a place where people could feel welcome, where they could share their cultural backgrounds and experiences with each other through the universal language of food. Revival wasn't just a name. It was a reflection of Keanu's philosophy, bringing people together and reviving the human connection. The restaurant staff had been carefully selected. He didn't just want employees, he wanted a team, and this team was like family to him. He had taken the time to meet each person personally, understanding their backgrounds, their dreams, and their aspirations. He wanted to foster an environment where everyone felt safe and valued, no matter their race, gender, or background. He had hired Marissa, a seasoned chef with a passion for experimenting with bold flavors. Miguel, a former line cook who had worked in some of the best kitchens in the city, had become his sous chef. Then there was Olivia, the charming waitress who always knew how to make anyone feel at ease. Keanu had always believed in giving people second chances, and Olivia, who had struggled with some personal issues in the past, had proven to be a star employee. There was also Nathan, the manager, who Keanu had known for years. They had met at a charity event a few years back, and Nathan's quiet determination and dedication to creating a positive work environment had made him the perfect fit for running the front of the house. Keanu trusted Nathan implicitly, but the cracks were beginning to show. Though Keanu had put in the effort to make Revival a place of inclusivity and warmth, he hadn't anticipated that some of his team might not share his vision as deeply as he had hoped. Sure, they seemed like the perfect fit at first, but as time went on, subtle signs of discomfort started to appear. When the restaurant first opened, everything went smoothly. The food was exceptional, the atmosphere inviting, and Keanu's presence added to the sense of excitement. The early reviews were positive, with customers praising the food and the welcoming vibe. Keanu made sure to spend time in the kitchen, talking to his staff, checking on things, and even serving customers occasionally. He wanted to be hands-on, ensuring that everything was as he had imagined. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. In the weeks following the grand opening, Keanu started hearing murmurs from some of his more regular customers. They mentioned that a few staff members had been rude to certain patrons. At first, Keanu dismissed it, assuming it was a one-time issue or a simple misunderstanding. After all, running a restaurant wasn't easy. There were bound to be hiccups, right? However, when Keanu began spending more time observing his staff's interactions with customers, he couldn't ignore the small but increasingly frequent signs of racial insensitivity. It was subtle at first: awkward exchanges, hurried service, and customers being treated differently based on their appearance. The real trouble began when Keanu overheard a conversation between Nathan and Marissa one evening after the dinner rush. They were discussing an incident where a black customer had sent back a dish because it wasn't cooked to their liking. Marissa had muttered something under her breath that Keanu couldn't quite make out, but it sounded like a racial slur. Nathan had just chuckled in response, brushing it off as no big deal. Keanu's heart sank when he heard it. He had trusted Nathan, and now he wasn't sure if he could trust anyone. How could this have happened under his roof? And how had it gone unnoticed for so long? It was one thing to hear rumors, but hearing the comments firsthand made it real. He knew he had to do something. This was no longer a minor issue. This was a matter of respect, of human decency. The restaurant that he had worked so hard to create, the space he envisioned as a sanctuary for everyone, was starting to unravel. Keanu sat down in the small office at the back of the restaurant, his mind racing. His thoughts kept drifting back to that moment, the interaction with the black customer. How many more incidents like this had slipped under the radar? How many people had been affected without him knowing? But what could he do now? He had to confront it head-on. But who could he turn to? Was Nathan part of the problem? Was it something deeper, something that ran throughout the entire staff? Keanu's eyes flickered over the pictures on the walls of his office, photos from past charity events, pictures of him with the staff, moments of laughter. All of it now felt tainted. How had something that was supposed to bring people together gone so wrong? Before he could think further, the door opened and Nathan walked in with a clipboard. Keanu looked up, his face unreadable. "Everything okay, Keanu?" Nathan asked, his voice steady, though there was a hint of nervousness in his tone. Keanu hesitated. "We need to talk." Keanu didn't waste any time. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. Nathan, standing in the doorway, looked at him with a mix of confusion and unease, as if he could sense that something was wrong but wasn't sure what. Keanu's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "We need to talk about what's been going on here." Nathan blinked, his face momentarily betraying a hint of guilt before it was masked by a professional smile. "What do you mean?" Keanu didn't hesitate. "I've been hearing things about the way some of the staff are treating customers, specifically our black patrons." His eyes narrowed, watching for any sign of discomfort on Nathan's face. Nathan's demeanor faltered for a split second before he quickly regained his composure. "Keanu, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. You know how stressful it gets, right? Things happen during service, people can get a little short-tempered." Keanu stood up, his gaze unwavering. "This is beyond short-tempered, Nathan. I've seen it myself. I overheard a conversation between you and Marissa after the rush the other night. You laughed off a racial slur. Is that what's happening here?" Nathan's face went pale. He swallowed hard, clearly caught off guard by Keanu's directness. I didn't think you'd notice, honestly. It wasn't meant to be serious, it's just, well, sometimes things get tense." Keanu stepped forward, his anger barely contained. "Tense? You think this is just about a little tension? We're supposed to be creating a space for people to feel welcome, Nathan. We're supposed to be setting an example, not perpetuating this kind of behavior." Nathan remained silent for a moment, his eyes shifting around the room, unable to meet Keanu's gaze. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But the truth is, there's a divide in the kitchen, and I guess it spills out sometimes." Keanu's heart sank. "A divide? You're telling me this has been happening in the kitchen and no one bothered to let me know?" Nathan hesitated, clearly wrestling with whether or not to say more. "It's not easy to talk about, Keanu. Some of the staff, they don't exactly share your vision of inclusivity. They don't see things the same way you do." Keanu felt his stomach churn. He had prided himself on hiring people who shared his values, on creating an environment that was different from the cutthroat, celebrity-driven world he had been part of for so long. But now here it was, his dream crumbling before him. Nathan continued, his voice softer now. "Some of the staff, they come from backgrounds where these kinds of attitudes are more accepted. It's ingrained in them, whether they realize it or not. And when things get tough, those old habits surface." Keanu took a deep breath, trying to keep his composure. He wasn't sure if Nathan was making excuses or being honest, but either way, this was bigger than just one person. The problem was systemic. If it was allowed to continue, it would destroy everything he had worked for. "I can't let this slide, Nathan," Keanu said, his voice firm. "I need to know who else is involved, and I need to know right now." Nathan's eyes shifted nervously. He hesitated, clearly torn between loyalty to his team and his boss's demand for transparency. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. "It's not just Marissa. There's Olivia too, and some of the line cooks, particularly Luis and Trey. I don't think they mean harm, but their behavior..." Keanu's mind raced as the names hit him like a punch to the gut. Olivia? His charming waitress, the one who had made such an effort to make customers feel comfortable. How could she be involved? And Trey and Luis, two of the line cooks who had seemed so dedicated, always on time, always working hard. The reality of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't just about a few offhand comments or a bad day. It was a deeply rooted issue that had taken hold within his team. Keanu ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what Nathan had said. I need to meet with everyone. I need to have an open conversation with the entire staff, face to face. We'll figure out who's part of this, who isn't, and what we're going to do about it. Nathan nodded, looking somewhat relieved that the burden of responsibility had been passed to Keanu, but the weight of it all was still on Keanu's shoulders. Keanu, Nathan said, his voice more subdued now. I know you're trying to do the right thing, but you have to realize some people, they might not take too kindly to this. This could cause a lot of tension in the kitchen, and honestly, I'm not sure how some of the others will react. Keanu's jaw tightened. I don't care about the fallout, Nathan. What matters is making this right. I don't care if it causes tension. So I care about this restaurant being a place where everyone feels welcome. If that means cleaning house, then that's what I'm going to do. Nathan stood in silence, clearly overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation. He had been caught in the middle of something bigger than he had expected. But Keanu didn't have time to worry about his manager's discomfort. He had bigger things to handle. Keanu turned and walked toward the door, his thoughts spinning. This wasn't just a problem with a few bad apples. It was a failure in the culture he had worked so hard to build. He had to fix it, or Revival wouldn't be worth anything. As Keanu walked through the restaurant, the sounds of clinking silverware and the hum of conversation filled the air, but it all felt hollow now. His dream was slipping through his fingers, and the road ahead was uncertain. He had to take control, but he wasn't sure what kind of battle he was walking into. Keanu had never felt more conflicted in his life. The weight of the situation was suffocating, and the reality of what had been happening in Revival was becoming harder to ignore. He had always prided himself on creating a space of inclusivity, but now he was staring down the harsh truth that his vision was at risk of being shattered. As Keanu stood in the back office, preparing for the meeting with the staff, he couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. He had worked so hard to create this place, this safe space for people from all walks of life, and now it was all threatened by the very people he had trusted the most. But he couldn't back down now. He needed to fix this, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. The staff had gathered in the dining area, all sitting in a tight circle, their faces a mix of curiosity, tension, and unease. Keanu stood in front of them, trying to steady his breath. This wasn't just a typical meeting, it was a reckoning, a moment where everything could either be saved or destroyed. Nathan stood to his side, his face pale, as if he, too, felt the gravity of what was about to unfold. Marissa, Olivia, Trey, and Luis were seated among the group, their eyes avoiding Keanu's gaze. Keanu's eyes scanned the faces of the team, his heart heavy as he prepared to address the elephant in the room. Keanu cleared his throat and began. I've called this meeting today because there are things happening here that I cannot ignore, things that go against everything this restaurant stands for. I'm talking about the way some of you have treated our customers, specifically in terms of race. This behavior is unacceptable. There was an audible shift in the room. Some of the staff exchanged nervous glances, while others remained still as if frozen in place. Keanu's voice remained calm, but there was a fire behind it. I've heard stories. I've seen it for myself, and I've learned that some of you have been involved in this. I need to know why this is happening, and I need to know if anyone here thinks this kind of behavior is okay. A thick silence filled the air. Keanu waited for someone to speak up, to offer an explanation, but no one did. His gaze locked with Marissa's, but she quickly looked away, her fingers nervously tapping on the table in front of her. Olivia shifted, uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes avoiding Keanu's as if she were trying to disappear into the chair. Keanu took a deep breath, his frustration building. I want answers. We are a family here, a team. So why are we allowing this kind of behavior to fester in our kitchen? I won't stand for it. Finally, it was Luis who spoke up, his voice defensive. Look, we're not perfect, but it's not like we're actively trying to hurt anyone. It's just, sometimes people rub us the wrong way, you know? We all have our limits. Keanu's eyes narrowed. So is that your excuse? That it's okay to treat someone differently because of how they rub you? We're all entitled to our feelings, but when we're at work, when we're representing Revival, We have a responsibility to our customers to treat them with respect. No one, no matter who they are or where they come from, deserves to be treated like that. Trey, who had been silent until now, shifted uncomfortably in his seat before speaking up, his tone more casual than Keanu would have liked. Look, man, I get what you're saying, but sometimes people just don't respect us. They think we're here to serve them, not the other way around. And yeah, sometimes it feels like people of color get away with more, or expect more. Sure, it's hard to keep a smile on your face when you're getting attitude all the time. Keanu was taken aback. Trey's words weren't just an excuse, they revealed something deeper. There was a bitter resentment simmering under the surface, a division between the staff and the customers they were meant to serve. And that division wasn't just about individual attitudes, it was something that had been allowed to grow unchecked. Keanu's voice hardened. I don't care if someone's rude to you, Trey. That's not an excuse to treat them poorly in return. That's the problem right there. You can't fight hate with hate, you need to rise above it, we all do. Olivia finally spoke up, her voice small but clear. Keanu, I know I've made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt anyone. I thought I was doing my job just like everyone else. But I see now that I've been part of the problem. I'm sorry. Keanu looked at Olivia, her face filled with regret. He could tell that her apology was genuine, but he also knew that words alone wouldn't fix what had been broken. The damage had been done, and it would take more than just an apology to heal the rift that had formed within his team. Marissa remained quiet, her arms crossed over her chest. Keanu's eyes lingered on her for a moment, but he didn't push her to speak. Not yet. The room was heavy with tension, and Keanu could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He couldn't help but wonder how deep this issue really ran. Were they all complicit, or was it just a few bad apples? After a long silence, Nathan spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. Keanu, I think we need to have a bigger conversation. We need to address this as a team, not just as individuals. We need to work through it, not just apologize and move on. Keanu nodded slowly. You're right. This isn't just about individuals. It's about the culture we've created here, and it's going to take all of us to fix it. He paused, letting the words sink in. This wasn't just a one-time issue. It was a culture problem, and it was going to take time, effort, and a lot of uncomfortable conversations to fix. But Keanu was willing to do whatever it took. We're going to take steps, Keanu continued, his voice steady. We'll start with diversity and inclusion training. We'll hold ourselves accountable, and most importantly, we'll hold each other accountable. If you can't respect the people who walk through that door, then you're not part of this team. That's non-negotiable. The staff sat in stunned silence, processing Keanu's words. For some, it was a wake-up call. For others, it was a turning point. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but it was the only way forward. Keanu took one last look around the room. He knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. How do you think Keanu should handle the rest of his team? Should he take stronger actions or give them another chance? Let us know in the comments. The days following the staff meeting were tense, to say the least. Keanu had initiated mandatory diversity and inclusion training, and he was doing everything he could to address the issue head-on. But no amount of training could change the fact that a fracture had formed among his team, a fracture that went deeper than just a few bad habits. The restaurant that had once felt like a family now felt like a battleground. Keanu had hoped that confronting the issue would spark a sense of unity, but instead it seemed to be driving everyone further apart. It was clear now that this wasn't just about a few isolated incidents. It was a clash of ideals, a conflict between the culture Keanu had fought to create and the realities of the people who had worked for him for years. One night, as the restaurant was nearing closing time, Keanu found himself standing in the empty dining room staring out the window. The neon sign outside flickered, casting an eerie glow over the room. The hum of the city was barely audible, but it felt like everything was crashing down around him. The sounds of the kitchen, the laughter of guests, the clinking of glasses, it was all a reminder of how much was at stake. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. Keanu turned to see Marissa approaching, her face drawn and weary. She was still in her uniform, her eyes puffy as if she had been crying. She stood there for a moment, hesitating as if unsure whether to speak. Keanu raised an eyebrow, concern flashing across his face. "Marissa, are you okay?" She let out a long, shaky breath before finally speaking. "Keanu, I don't know how to fix this. I've been trying to change, but every time I think I'm making progress, it feels like I'm just going backwards." Keanu stepped toward her, his tone softening. "I know it's tough. Change takes time, but you've got to trust the process. I can't do this alone. I need everyone to be on board." Marissa shook her head, her eyes filled with doubt. "I'm not sure I even belong here anymore. I thought I could handle it, but I don't know how to make things right. It's like everything I've done in the past is just catching up with me." Keanu's heart ached as he watched her. He had seen the potential in her when he first hired her, the same way he had seen it in so many others, but somewhere along the way, they had lost sight of what truly mattered. Marissa had made mistakes, yes, but she wasn't beyond redemption. None of them were. "You belong here, Marissa," Keanu said firmly, "but you have to be willing to put in the work, just like everyone else. We all have to change, myself included. This restaurant isn't just a place where we serve food. It's a place where we create community, and right now we've lost that, but we can get it back, together." She looked at him, her eyes still uncertain. "But what if it's too late? What if the damage is already done?" Keanu's jaw tightened. "It's never too late to make things right, Marissa, but it has to come from you. You have to show everyone that you're committed to making this work. And I'm not going to lie, it's going to be hard. But if we don't confront this now, we risk losing everything." Marissa nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. But before she could respond, the sound of the front door opening interrupted them. Keanu turned to see Olivia standing there, her face flushed, her posture tense. "I heard you two talking," Olivia said, her voice low and guarded. "I think I need to be honest with you, Keanu." Keanu raised an eyebrow, unsure of where this was going. "What do you mean?" Olivia took a step forward, glancing between Marissa and Keanu. I've been part of the problem too. I've said things I shouldn't have, done things I shouldn't have, but I didn't realize how bad it was until now. I didn't realize how much pain we were causing." Keanu felt a pang of hope. Olivia had been one of the people he thought he could count on, and hearing her admit her mistakes gave him a glimmer of optimism. But that optimism was short-lived when she continued. "I'm scared, Keanu," Olivia said, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can change. What if the others don't want to? What if they don't care? What if we can't fix this? What if we lose everything?" Keanu's heart sank. Olivia's fear was real, and it was contagious. He had been trying to convince himself that they could make it through this, that they could rebuild the restaurant and their relationships. But Olivia's words had planted a seed of doubt. What if they couldn't fix it? What if they lost everything? He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "I won't give up on this, Olivia, and I won't give up on any of you, but we have to face the reality that we've hurt people, and that's not something we can undo overnight. We can only move forward by showing up every day, doing the work, and holding ourselves accountable." For a long moment there was silence. Marissa and Olivia both seemed to be weighing his words, trying to decide whether they believed it was possible to change, to fix what had been broken. Finally, Marissa spoke up. "I want to try. I want to do better. I owe it to the people who come here, and I owe it to myself." Olivia nodded in agreement, her eyes still unsure but determined. "I want to try too. We have to fix this. For the restaurant, for the people we've hurt." Keanu felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was quickly followed by the realization that this was just the beginning. The road ahead was long, and the challenges would only become more difficult. But at least now, there was a glimmer of hope, a shared commitment to making things right. The emotional climax had hit, and Keanu knew there was no turning back now. The future of Revival rested on their ability to come together, confront their mistakes, and rebuild the trust that had been broken. Before we continue, make sure you hit that subscribe button to see how Keanu and his team tackle the hardest part of their journey, Do you think they'll be able to overcome their differences? Let us know what you think in the comments. The morning after the emotional confrontation, Keanu sat at his usual table near the back of the restaurant, a cup of coffee in front of him. The world outside was waking up, but inside Revival there was a tense stillness. Keanu had a lot on his mind. Yesterday's revelations had been a turning point, but now came the hardest part: taking action. There was a lot of work to be done, not just with the team but within himself. Keanu knew that change wasn't going to be easy. He had spent years building Revival into something special, a place of belonging, a sanctuary for those who wanted to escape the harshness of the world outside. But now it felt as if he was losing his grip on that vision. Would they ever regain the trust of their customers? Could they repair the deep divisions that had taken root among the staff? Just as these questions weighed heavily on him, Nathan entered the room. He had been quiet the entire week since the team meeting, observing from the sidelines, but today there was a different energy around him. He approached Keanu's table with a confident stride, a calm expression on his face. "Morning," Nathan said, pulling out a chair and sitting across from Keanu. Keanu nodded but didn't speak right away, still lost in thought. Finally, he looked up at Nathan, searching for something to hold on to. "How do we fix this, Nathan? Can we fix this?" Nathan's gaze softened. "We've already started, Keanu. The hardest part is acknowledging the problem. And you did that. We're not going to fix everything in one go, but we've got to start small. One step at a time." Keanu sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, but what if it's too late? What if our customers are already lost? What if our team is too broken to fix?" Nathan leaned forward, locking eyes with Keanu. "Keanu, people are resilient. You've built a place where people feel welcome and accepted. Yes, there's been a setback, but the foundation you've created is still there. The people who love Revival will come back. And the team, if they're willing to put in the work, will come back too." Keanu's heart clenched at his words. There was a part of him that wanted to believe Nathan, wanted to believe that everything would be okay. But the fear of failure, of letting down his employees and customers, still gnawed at him. Just then, Olivia, Marissa, and Trey entered the room together, their faces a little more hopeful than the day before. They had been taking their own steps toward change, attending the diversity training and actively participating in the workshops Keanu had set up. But the real test would be how they handled the situation moving forward. Olivia smiled weakly as she approached Keanu's table. "Hey, Keanu, got a minute?" Keanu smiled back, motioning for them to sit. "Of course. How are you all feeling today?" Trey, usually the most outspoken of the group, was the first to speak up. "We're getting there. It's not easy, but we've got to stick together." Marissa nodded in agreement. "I feel like we're starting to understand what we need to do. Yesterday was a wake-up call for all of us." Keanu leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning their faces. They weren't perfect. They were flawed, just like everyone else, but they were trying. And for Keanu, that was enough. They were showing up. They were willing to fight for what Revival stood for. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said yesterday, Keanu," Olivia continued, her voice filled with sincerity. "I know we all have work to do, but I think we're ready. We can do this." Keanu felt a surge of pride in his chest. For the first time in days, he could see the spark of hope in their eyes. It was clear now. Revival was more than just a business to them. It was a reflection of their values, a mirror of the community they wanted to create. "We'll take it. One day at a time," Keanu said, his voice steady. "And we'll keep pushing forward, no more excuses. We'll make sure that Revival is a place where everyone feels safe, valued, and respected. No one walks through those doors and feels anything less than that." Trey leaned in, a look of determination crossing his face. "I'm in. We've all got to be better. And if that means calling each other out when we're wrong, then so be it." Keanu smiled. "Exactly. We all hold each other accountable, and we keep moving forward. Together." The mood in the room shifted, the heavy weight of the past week lifting just a little. Keanu could see the commitment in their eyes. They were ready to rebuild, not just the restaurant, but the trust and relationships that had been broken. But there was one more thing that Keanu needed to do. One final step before they could truly move forward. I think it's time we make a public statement, Keanu said, his voice resolute. We've lost the trust of some of our customers, and that's on us, but we need to show them that we're serious about change, that we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. The others nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. It wasn't just about making things right internally, it was about making things right with the people they served. Keanu stood, a sense of clarity settling over him. I'm going to write an open letter to our customers. I'll explain what's been going on, what we've learned, and what we're doing to make things right. And I need all of you to help. Me. We'll show them we're committed to change. We'll show them that Revival is a place that deserves to be a part of this community. They all nodded in agreement. There was work to be done, and it was going to be hard. But they were ready. Keanu was ready. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to follow the journey as Keanu and his team face their biggest challenge yet. Do you think a public statement will be enough to rebuild trust with their customers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The open letter was ready. Keanu stared at the words on the page, his hands trembling slightly as he prepared to hit send. This letter wasn't just a statement. It was an acknowledgement of everything that had gone wrong, a promise to do better, and a call for his team and the community to join him in making a change. It was more than just a message. It was the first step in rebuilding the trust that had been lost, not only with his customers but also with himself. He had spent years building Revival into a place where people could find a sense of belonging, a place where they could escape the struggles of the world. But now, after everything that had happened, he wasn't sure if they could get it back. The letter had to be perfect. Keanu reread it one more time. A personal statement from Keanu Reeves. A commitment to change. To our dear customers, I'm writing to address something that has been weighing heavily on my heart. Over the past few weeks, it has become painfully clear that we've failed in the most important way. We have hurt some of you, and for that, I am deeply sorry. Revival was founded with the vision of creating a welcoming space where everyone, regardless of background or identity, could feel at home. But recent events have shown that we have not upheld this vision in the way we should have. We've allowed harmful behavior to exist in our restaurant, and we've fallen short in confronting it head-on. For that, I take full responsibility. We are actively working to make things right. This starts with open conversations, mandatory diversity and inclusion training, and a commitment from every member of our team to do better. We will not shy away from our mistakes. We are committed to ensuring that Revival is a place where everyone feels respected and valued, because that is what you deserve. We understand that words alone are not enough. Actions speak louder, and we are taking the necessary steps to rebuild your trust. We hope you will give us the chance to prove ourselves, to show you that we can be the restaurant you've always loved, and more. Thank you for your patience and understanding during this difficult time. We are committed to earning back your trust, and we ask for your support as we move forward. Sincerely, Keanu Reeves. Keanu took a deep breath and hit send. As soon as he did, he felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. There was no going back now, but he knew it was the right thing to do. He sat back in his chair, looking out at the restaurant. The tables were empty, the lights dimmed for the night. It felt strange, like a quiet before a storm, a moment of uncertainty before the next chapter of their journey began. But Keanu had made peace with it. He had to trust the process. Within an hour of sending the letter, the first wave of responses began to flood in. Comments, messages, and emails poured in from customers, some angry, some supportive, and many expressing their disappointment. The truth was, Keanu didn't expect instant forgiveness. He knew that regaining trust would take time, and that wasn't something that could be rushed. Then came the most important message, a comment on their Instagram page from one of their most loyal customers, Sarah, who had been with them since the beginning. Keanu, I've been coming here for years, and I've always believed in what Revival stands for. It's heartbreaking to hear about everything that's happened, but I see the effort you're putting in to make things right. I'm with you. And I'll be back. Let's fix this together. Keanu smiled at the message, feeling a sense of warmth wash over him. That was what he needed to hear. That was the hope he had been searching for. Meanwhile, the team was also taking the necessary steps. They had all come together after the meeting the previous day to discuss how they would personally contribute to the change. It wasn't just about attending training or writing an apology. It was about showing up every day and doing better. Marissa and Olivia were the first to step forward and speak out. Marissa shared a heartfelt post on social media, explaining her own growth and how she was committed to making things right. "I've learned a lot over the past few days. I know I have a long way to go, but I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to work harder to make sure everyone feels safe and valued here." Olivia followed suit, posting her own message of reflection and accountability. "There's no excuse for what happened, but I'm determined to make sure Revival is a place where all are welcome. I'm committed to learning, growing, and doing my part to rebuild trust with our community." Trey too shared a post, letting his followers know that he was taking full responsibility for his actions and was committed to change. The transparency and accountability from the team were what Keanu had hoped for, and he couldn't have been prouder of them. Despite the overwhelming challenge ahead, Keanu felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning, but it was a start, a real tangible start. The work they had to do wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, and they would make mistakes along the way. But Keanu believed they could make it through, so long as they stayed committed to doing better, being better. The next morning, as Keanu stood in the kitchen before the lunch rush, he felt a familiar weight on his shoulders. But it didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like a responsibility he was ready to bear, alongside the people he had come to trust, even more than before. As the first customers began trickling in, Keanu felt a quiet sense of hope. They had taken the first step. Now they had to keep walking forward. What do you think? Is Keanu on the right path to rebuilding Revival? And do you believe his team will continue to stay committed to change? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. If you're rooting for Keanu and his team, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter. Days turned into weeks, and the restaurant slowly began to heal. Keanu could feel it in the air. The tension was still there, but it was accompanied by a sense of determination that hadn't been present before. The team was committed, the customers were cautiously returning, and for the first time in a while, Keanu could almost taste success again. But even as things began to stabilize, he knew the real test was yet to come. One morning, as Keanu walked into Revival to oversee the final touches before opening, something unusual happened. A delivery truck had just pulled up, but instead of the usual orders of fresh produce and meats, the driver was unloading a massive pile of boxes and bags. Keanu's curiosity got the better of him as he walked over to the delivery area. "What's all this?" he asked the driver, his brow furrowing. The driver grinned. "It's from the people over at Harmony Foods. They heard about your efforts to turn things around here and decided to send over a gift for the whole team." Keanu blinked, surprised. He had heard of Harmony Foods. They were known for their high-quality organic products, but Keanu never imagined they'd notice Revival's recent struggles. Curious, Keanu helped the driver unload several boxes and crates, filled with gourmet ingredients, packaged beautifully and ready to be used in the kitchen. As he flipped through the packing slips, one card in particular caught his eye. "Keanu, we see what you're doing at Revival, and we want to be a part of it. Here's to rebuilding together. From all of us at Harmony Foods, thank you for setting an example of resilience. We hope this will help bring your vision to life." Keanu stood there, taking in the generosity of the gesture. It was humbling. They hadn't just sent ingredients, they had sent hope. The letter wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol of solidarity. In that moment, Keanu felt a renewed sense of motivation. It wasn't just about the team anymore. It was about the whole community rallying behind them. People were starting to see Revival not as a place that had faltered, but as a place that had the potential to rise again, stronger than ever. Later that day, after the morning rush, Keanu gathered the team in the break room to discuss the delivery. He could tell they were all equally impressed and touched by the gesture. "All right, everyone," Keanu said, standing in front of them with the letter in his hands. "We've received something truly special today, a gift from Harmony Foods. And it's not just about the ingredients, it's a sign that people believe in what we're doing. People want to support us. This is our chance to show them that we're worth it. Trey, usually the more skeptical one, leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed. You know what, Keanu? Maybe this is the universe telling us we're on the right path. If companies like Harmony Foods are backing us, then maybe we're really doing something good here. Marissa nodded. I think it's more than that. It's a reminder that we're not alone in this. Other businesses, other people are seeing the effort we're putting in, and they want to be part of it. Keanu smiled, feeling a spark of hope flicker inside him. Exactly. This is our opportunity to prove that we're more than just a restaurant. We're a part of this community, and we've got to honor that. Let's make sure we put everything into this next chapter. It's time to show everyone, especially ourselves, that we can do this. They all exchanged determined glances. There was still work to do, but now there was something else. Momentum. They had taken a huge leap forward, and the world was starting to take notice. As the weeks progressed, revival became a buzzword once again. Word had gotten out that Keanu and his team were committed to making changes. The open letter he had sent sparked a conversation, and many customers began to return, eager to see for themselves if things had really changed. Keanu noticed the shift, not only in the customers but in his team as well. The energy in the kitchen was different. There was a palpable sense of purpose, of excitement. The staff was more engaged, the dishes were being prepared with greater care, and the service had improved. Olivia, who had always been reserved, was stepping up. She was leading by example, showing initiative by helping train new staff and offering support when needed. Marissa, who had been struggling with her own internal conflict about the restaurant's recent issues, seemed to have found a renewed sense of pride in her work. Even Trey, who had been unsure of his place in all this, was actively making an effort to improve his interactions with customers, ensuring they felt heard and respected. One night, as Keanu sat in the back office catching up on paperwork, he heard laughter from the front of the house. He peeked out of the office to see the team gathered around the counter, joking and sharing a light moment before the dinner rush. For the first time in months, it felt like they were truly working together as a team again, not just employees, clocking in and out. The sound of laughter was a reminder that even in the toughest times there could be joy, and that joy could heal wounds. It wasn't just the progress they had made with their customers that mattered. It was the sense of camaraderie and trust they had rebuilt among themselves. But just as things were beginning to feel like they might be heading in the right direction, an unexpected visitor walked through the door one afternoon, and everything changed once again. Do you think Revival is really on the road to recovery, or is this just the calm before another storm? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on Keanu and his team's journey. The next chapter is going to surprise you. It was an ordinary afternoon at Revival. The sun was shining through the windows, casting long shadows across the restaurant's polished wooden floors. The lunchtime crowd had thinned out, leaving only a few regulars lingering over their meals, chatting and enjoying the warm atmosphere. Keanu was sitting in the back office, going over some financial reports, feeling the tension of the past few weeks beginning to fade. He was starting to believe that they were truly on the path to redemption. His team was working hard, and the community support had been overwhelming. But just as he began to relax, the door swung open, and the bell chimed above the entrance. Keanu looked up, expecting another group of customers, but instead his heart skipped a beat as a familiar face stepped through the door. It was none other than Travis Lewis, the restaurant critic from the Metropolitan Review. Keanu's stomach dropped. He hadn't seen Travis in years, ever since the review of Revival that had sparked a whirlwind of publicity when the restaurant first opened. At the time, the glowing review had given the restaurant a boost, but Keanu hadn't heard from Travis since the incident. He hadn't expected him to show up now, especially given the recent challenges Revival had faced. Keanu stood up from his desk, walking out to greet him with a strained smile. Travis, wow. It's been a while, Keanu said, trying to mask his nerves. Travis gave him a tight smile. Yeah, it has, and I must admit I've been keeping an eye on what's been happening here. I didn't think I'd be walking through these doors again, but here I am. Keanu didn't know whether to feel anxious or relieved. He had worked so hard to make things right, And now, here was the man who could either help solidify their recovery or set them back again with a single review. "Would you like a table?" Keanu asked, his voice a little too high-pitched. "We're still serving lunch for another hour." Travis glanced around, taking in the atmosphere of Revival. The restaurant had a welcoming vibe, modern but cozy, with clean lines and an open kitchen where customers could watch the chefs work their magic. There was a sense of life in the space that hadn't been there a few weeks ago, and Travis seemed to notice it. "I'll pass on lunch for now," Travis replied. "I came for something else. You've made quite the stir with your recent changes. I wanted to see for myself what's really going on behind the scenes." Keanu's heart raced. The critic wasn't here for a meal, but for something much more important. He was here to observe, and given the past, Keanu knew this was an opportunity they couldn't afford to mess up. "Well," Keanu began, his voice steadying, "we're definitely doing things differently around here now. I can't deny that things went sideways before, but we've been working hard to make things right. And we're not just about the food anymore. We want to make sure Revival is a place where everyone feels welcome, no matter who they are." Travis raised an eyebrow. "A bit of a transformation, huh? Tell me, Keanu, what made you change course? Was it the controversy, or was this always your plan?" Keanu hesitated for a moment. It was a loaded question. Did Travis want him to admit that it was the scandal that pushed him to change? Or did he want to hear about the personal growth that had come from the whole ordeal? The controversy, yeah, it played a part, Keanu admitted. But what really made me change was realizing that we weren't living up to what Revival was supposed to be. Our mission was always to provide a space for everyone, and we lost sight of that. It took something serious happening to wake us up, but I believe that change has made us stronger. I can't undo the past, but I can make sure we don't repeat our mistakes." Travis nodded, his eyes scanning Keanu's face as if searching for sincerity. "It sounds like you've put in the work. But people are still going to remember what happened here, Keanu. People are going to be skeptical, even if you've done all the right things." Keanu swallowed hard. "I know, I can't change that, but all I can do is show up every day and prove that we've learned from it." A long silence hung between them, and Keanu couldn't help but feel a nervous knot in his stomach. What if this wasn't enough? What if Travis didn't see the effort? What if this one visit was going to be the end of everything? Finally, Travis stood up from his seat, pulling out his phone. "All right, Keanu, I'll give you credit. This is better than I expected. I'm not here to bring you down, but I need to see it for myself. I'll spend the next few days observing, talking to your staff, seeing how they interact with customers. I'll make my decision then." Keanu nodded, his shoulders slumping slightly in relief. "Thank you, I appreciate it." As Travis turned to leave, he paused at the door and looked back at Keanu. "One more thing, though. Don't get too comfortable. This is just the beginning. If you're serious about changing, you'll have to keep proving it every day, and trust me, I'll be watching." With that, Travis walked out, leaving Keanu standing in the middle of the restaurant, a sense of uncertainty hanging in the air once again. Keanu stood motionless for a few moments, taking in the weight of the situation. He had done everything he could to fix the damage that had been done, but he knew that even with all the hard work, Revival wasn't out of the woods yet. This wasn't just about appeasing critics. It was about proving to everyone that they had changed, that they were truly committed to creating an inclusive environment. And Travis's words echoed in his mind. If you're serious about changing, you'll have to keep proving it every day. What do you think? Will Keanu and his team be able to pass the test Travis is putting them through, or will the weight of the past prove to be too much? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's still more to come, and you won't want to miss the final chapter of Keanu's journey. The following days were a blur of activity at Revival. The kitchen worked at full throttle, the front-of-house staff meticulously prepared the dining area, and Keanu spent long hours overseeing everything, still mindful of the visit from Travis. The pressure weighed heavily on him, but he couldn't let it show. Not now, not when Revival had come so far. Travis had promised to return after a few days, and Keanu knew this could be the moment that either made or broke Revival. He had seen the restaurant evolve firsthand, but now it was time to see if it could hold up under the scrutiny of a seasoned critic. and a harsh one at that. Keanu stood at the kitchen pass, watching the team move seamlessly, like a well-oiled machine. It was hard to believe that only weeks ago they had been on the brink of collapse. Now the vibe was different. People were smiling, laughing, and working together with a sense of purpose that had been missing for so long. Olivia and Marissa were back in sync, coordinating with the chefs while Trey greeted customers with his usual charisma. Even the new staff members seemed to have caught the rhythm. Keanu felt proud, maybe for the first time in a while, of how far they had come. But as the evening drew closer, his thoughts drifted to Travis. Would he see this newfound unity, or would he catch a glimpse of the cracks they were still trying to hide? As the dinner rush approached, Keanu stood near the entrance, keeping an eye on the door. Then, right on cue, Travis walked in. He was alone, no entourage, no cameras, just a man walking in like any other diner. But Keanu knew better. This was a man with a pen, and that pen had the power to either elevate them or send them spiraling back to where they started. "Evening, Travis," Keanu said, stepping forward to greet him. Travis gave him a nod. "Evening, Keanu. I'll be honest with you. This place is buzzing, and I'm intrigued to see if the change is real." Keanu couldn't tell if that was a compliment or a challenge, but he didn't have time to dwell on it. "We've worked hard. I hope you see it for yourself." Travis smiled thinly. "I'll be the judge of that." Keanu led him to a table in the corner, and as Travis settled in, he was immediately handed a menu by Olivia. Marissa joined the table soon after, taking his order with a smile that was as genuine as any they had given before the scandal. It was small moments like this that made Keanu hopeful. Their commitment was shining through. As the night went on, Keanu moved through the dining area, greeting customers and overseeing the staff. The atmosphere was lively, filled with conversations and laughter, a stark contrast to the tense, uncomfortable silences that had once hung over Revival. The food was coming out flawlessly, and the service was exceptional. Keanu had done everything he could to make this night different, but now it was out of his hands. About halfway through the evening, Travis stood up and made his way to the kitchen. Keanu, who had been in the back, monitoring the flow of orders, was startled to see the critic standing just inside the kitchen's open doors, watching the chefs prepare the dishes. "Everything's running smoothly back here, huh?" Travis said, his arms crossed as he observed the crew at work. Keanu nodded, feeling a pang of anxiety. "Yeah, we've worked hard to make sure that every dish is prepared with care. Every part of this process is important, not just the food, but how we interact with each other and our customers." Travis tilted his head, seemingly inspecting Keanu's words. "I can see that," he said after a long pause, "but I need to know, how real is it? This change you've made. Is it something that's stuck, or are you all just going through the motions?" Keanu's throat tightened. He had been asked that same question by his team, by his customers, by the press. But hearing it from Travis, a man who had seen the restaurant's darkest days, made it feel like the question held more weight. "It's real," Keanu replied, meeting Travis's gaze. "This place is a reflection of the people who work here, and we've made a commitment to not just do better, but to be better. Not for the reviews, not for the customers, although they're important, but for each other." Travis didn't say anything for a moment. He just nodded, as though evaluating the sincerity of Keanu's words. Then he turned and walked back, toward the dining area, but not before giving Keanu one final look. The night wore on, and the tension in the air was almost palpable. Keanu found himself repeatedly glancing at the table where Travis was sitting, wondering what the critic was writing, what he was thinking. Was he impressed? Was he still skeptical? By the time the final plates were cleared and the last guests had left, Keanu's mind was a whirlwind. The restaurant had felt different that night, there was no denying it. But was it enough? Was it enough to turn the page completely on the restaurant's dark past? Travis stood up to leave, and Keanu rushed over to meet him. The critic's expression was unreadable, making Keanu feel even more uncertain. "Thanks for letting me experience Revival firsthand," Travis said, slipping on his coat. "I've seen the effort, but we both know that action speaks louder than words." Keanu nodded, his heart in his throat. "So, what's your verdict?" Travis paused for a moment, then gave Keanu a sharp look. You've got something good here. If you keep this up, you might just make it. But don't rest on your laurels, keep proving it every single day. People won't forget what happened here, but they'll respect you if you can truly turn things around. Keanu let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. It wasn't a glowing review, but it wasn't a condemnation either. It was the possibility he needed. A chance to keep going, to prove that revival was more than just its past. As Travis walked out the door, Keanu turned to the staff who had been watching from the sidelines. They were exhausted, but there was a glint in their eyes. They knew what this meant. They had earned a second chance, and now they had to fight for it every single day. And so the journey continues. Keanu and his team have faced trials, tribulations, and uncertainty. But with hard work and determination, Revival has a chance to be something more than just a restaurant. It's a testament to resilience, and the road to redemption is still open. What do you think? Will Revival continue to thrive, or will the weight of its past pull it under once again? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more of Keanu's journey. There's always more to come.